Hi, everybody. I want to talk about parenting today and a new trend I've seen on social media. Mostly it's young people, like young adults, I would say, people under the age of 35, under the age of 30 possibly, who don't have children. From what I can tell, these are childless people. These are people who don't have children. And I don't know what their issue is. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if they had strained relationships with their parents or if they've just drunk too much of this commie Kool-Aid such that they believe the parent-child relationship or bond or attachment, whatever you want to call it, is some kind of bourgeois horror that needs to be eliminated in order for people to be truly liberated. I mean, that is a liberation ideology, communist kind of belief. But whenever parents, and I'm not talking about the mommy vloggers who use their kids, like that, even I don't like that, where they prop them up like little props and dress them up and throw them out there for likes and shares and to make money and, or for political purposes. I mean, most rational people don't care for that because you are quite literally using your child and your parenting as a prop. No, I'm talking about just simply parents expressing their concern, their love for their children, sharing nostalgic memories about their children, celebrating a birthday and talking about how joyous it is for them to watch their child grow up and be successful and so on. And comments will come in. I got one just today, and I'm not the only person. This is not just about me. I've seen this happen to other people where somebody pops in and says, "Why is it always about you?" Or "It's not about you." I've seen it when parents express their concern about kids being exposed to porn in their schools. And the parent saying, "I'm very concerned about this. I don't want this for my child. I don't think this is appropriate." And of course they're going to say "I." And it comes in like, who cares what you think? You don't own them. Your children belong to themselves. It's not about you. I've seen some Instagram kids and TikTok kids speak as if they're speaking to their parents and complaining about everything from discipline to expectations around, their behavior and so on. And it's, it's not about you is the phrase. And they're even going so far at times to accuse their parents of being, narcissists or whatever, simply because the parents express any emotions whatsoever about their children. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. Now, I grant you, again, I'll say it, I don't think it's a great idea to go public with your negative feelings about your children. That's a kind of a violation of your trust. But this is happening even more when parents are saying something positive about how much they love their children, care for their children, want the best for their children, want to be involved in their education, want to make sure they're learning, want them to have all the tools they need to succeed. And out of the woodwork come these people, and some of them are teachers. Some of them claim to be counselors. Others are just children themselves. It's not about you. In my case today, the scenario was that somebody I follow posted a thread about taking his daughter to a father-daughter dance some years ago, and then going back to the hotel with his wife and his daughter because they were at a, sort of a fancy ballroom kind of thing. So they stayed there overnight, and tucking her in to sleep and just sitting and watching her sleep and realizing in that moment that this was going to be the last time that he was going to tuck his daughter at that age, at that vulnerable stage where she could be tucked in, where being tucked in is a thing that kids really want. And he sort of realized it sometimes later that was the last time that was going to happen. And it was very bittersweet, and he was sad, and he cried. And then I wrote my post about how we miss our children at every age. People don't often tell you this when you have children, so consider this me telling you if you don't yet have kids, or maybe you do have them now, but they're quite young and you've never considered this. The person they are is evolving, of course. I mean, they're born with a certain set of personality traits and talents and so on. That's the nature part. And then the nurture part is what you'll give them, what the world will give them, what they're going to experience, what they'll give themselves, that's going to turn them into the fully formed person they will be as an adult. But along the way, at every age, at every stage, infancy, toddlerhood, preschooler, school age, even if they don't go to school, preteen, teen, young adult, at every stage, and as I said, sometimes at every age, they take on a being, a personality, a set of favorite habits or behaviors or things that is unique to that time period. So much so that that's like the who they are of that time period. That little 5-year-old will never come again. There's going to be a day, and you might miss it, where they aren't that person. They'll be the person you think, oh, that's my child. And then you wake up one day and something fundamental has changed. It could be for the good. It could be for the bad. They could go to school and have a terrible experience and get bullied and come home and some light in their eyes has gone out. Or the pet dies and they are just a little bit jaded. And yes, these are necessary life experiences and they have to go through them, but that person they were before is no more, and the person they are now is a new person you have to get to know, which of course is part of the joy of parenting, is continually getting to know this new person they are and love that person too. So this is not any kind of a complaint. This is a process, an evolution, but that person they were, that you loved for all of the things that they were, is no more. And it's bittersweet. As positive as it is that they're growing up and they're moving on, it's bittersweet. It's a person they'll likely forget. And if you're not careful, so will you. But what I was writing about was how that process works, just as I've told you, and how sometimes even now, I have one child left at home, 15, and I will look at her and I will take stock of the moment, but I'll look a little too long because I'm trying to sort of code it in my brain and memorize it. And I'll look a little too long and say, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me? And I don't say the whole truth because I don't want to, weird her out or something. And you don't want your child to think, so you miss that person, but you don't like me? Of course not. You love your child at every age. But it's just that phenomenon of that, realizing that was a unique version of that self. That part of them, that 10-year-old self, that 12-year-old self, whatever, good, bad, or indifferent, they no longer exist. And so I'll just say, oh, you're just so beautiful, or, I'll compliment her, which is easy to do anyway. And I mentioned this in my tweet. I said, but I'm really taking stock. I'm memorizing the moment. I'm memorizing the 15-year-old version, so that when she's 16, and things will be different, as I'm sure they will be. It could be subtle, but things will be different, that I will remember. And somebody came in immediately after me to tell me how sorry they felt for my child, for my children, that it's all about me. It's all about me, that I want to remember this. Well, you know what? It's a little bit about me, as it is for every parent. This is our life too. We are not just breeders. We choose to have children, and we choose to give that measure of our lives to them. We choose it. There's no blame here. I'm happiest thing I've ever done. Best thing I've ever done. Absolutely would, with everything, imperfect about it, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I'd have more if I could. But yeah, it's a little bit about me, because this is my life's work. This is something I'm pouring into. Would you say that the novel you wrote wasn't at all about you? Would you say that the building you designed and built, or the career you built, or anything about yourself is not about you? No, my daughter is a separate, unique individual who's going to go live her life. And I respect that 100%, and she knows it. But this short time that I have the privilege of sharing that life with her and having any influence whatsoever on the person she's going to become, being here for her as a source of support and guidance, and then seeing her take that to her benefit, yes, that's gratifying. Yes, I'm happy about that. Yes, I take joy in her joys, sorrow in her sorrows. That's part of being a parent. That's what attachment is. And I would argue that the biggest problems we face in mental health today are a function of poor attachment, are a function of too many parents buying into the idea that they are pretty much just breeders, and that the parenting is going to be done by the collective, by the government and the schools, by entertainment, by their cell phone, whatever, and that they are merely guardians housing these children and paying for their stuff, possibly being mildly inconvenienced by them, or using them as fashion accessories and props so that other people will think they're great. I don't care what other people think of my parenting. That's irrelevant. I was sharing a moment with somebody that I'm friends with on social media saying, I've been there, I understand you, I get you, we're connecting. Yes, social media can serve that purpose every once in a blue moon. And what happens? Like I said, I've seen this dozens of times. I'm just using my example as the most salient one because it just happened. And it's all about you. No, it's definitely not all about me, but it is a little bit about me. Just it is a little bit about every parent, because to say that a parent-child relationship is just these two separate people floating around in space that just biologically happen to be related to each other, or by law, one adopted the other and that's just happenstance. No. This is an emotional bond that when it's healthy, it's interdependent. There's not an encroachment on the boundaries. It's interdependent. As I said, her joy is my joy. Her sadness is my sadness. Her fear is sometimes my fear too. And then I have the extra added responsibility very often not to show it. Because remember, I'm the adult. I'm the parent. I'm supposed to teach her what would be the healthiest way for her to respond in certain situations or not respond. So I have to maintain boundaries. It's a fine line. It's difficult. It's hard work. And we mess up. Parents mess up plenty. And we know it. And then when we're doing it right, we not only know it, we apologize if there's an apology to be made, or we have a little chat with ourselves about how to not make that mistake again next time. We're learning too. We've never been this age before. We've never been this age before with a child that age before. When it's your first. By the time it's your third, you've never had a third born or a second born or whatever at that age while you're this age. Everybody's having their firsts together. And we now live in a culture that is so hostile to families, to children, and to parents and the parent-child relationship that we have made it okay to tell parents that it is narcissistic to love their children. That it is narcissistic to take a mental snapshot of their growing child so they never forget. And one last thing I'm going to add, because we were all children once too. Nothing caused me as much frustration in my relationship with my only parent for most of my life, my father, than wanting him to tell me what I was like at various ages and stages, and hearing him say, I don't remember. I don't know. Why would you expect me to know that? Silly me. You see, because kids are learning so much about the world. Everything that you know, they have yet to learn. And think about how much you've learned since you weren't a child anymore. They got to learn that too. And schools, if they go to school, are making it damn hard for them to do it. So they're having to learn a lot of lessons you never had to learn and nobody should have to learn. Like how to fight back against adults who claim to care about you but are actually challenging everything you know to be true about yourself, starting with your sex and that your parents love you. The earth is round. I mean, and a whole lot of things in between. You got to fight that off. fight off the obligation that the school is laying on you to be responsible to fix the world, even though you just got here. So they have to learn all that. So remembering exactly what they were like at each age is not only something they're not focused on in their agenda, but it's actually physically impossible. The way the brain works and stores memories, mostly using language, they aren't going to remember. It's a very rare child that remembers being 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 with any degree of detail. They remember highlight reel, like a highlight reel, but they don't remember from our perspective. They can't. They aren't us. They don't remember what they were like. They might remember what they liked, but not what they were like. Why would they? So they look to us, and it's a sign of how much we paid attention, how much we cared, that we can turn to them and say, oh, let me tell you, you were like this and like this and like this. And what I especially loved was this. But then there was this time. And so they love these stories. And they love them at different stages too. When they're young adults, they laugh and enjoy hearing about what they were like as toddlers and little kids. When they go to have their own children, sometimes they're asking you pleadingly, was I like this? What did you do? Help me. But if you don't remember, because it's not all about you, I'm not going to take stock of this. This isn't my business. What are you going to tell them? I don't know. That wasn't my responsibility. It wasn't all about me. That's up to you to remember. Is that what we're going to tell them? No. I hope not. Because as I said, it really sucked going through my young adulthood and my adulthood, and then when I had children, going to my father, who I had hoped would be a repository of memories of my childhood that I could tap into when mine failed or just wasn't there again because I wouldn't remember things like being a baby. And he had nothing. The database was empty. So, I guess my point is to parents more than to these people who insist it's not about us, or we're selfish, or whatever, narcissistic, for expressing our love and concern and sharing that with other people, maybe to give them some insight so they can stop and take stock and remember themselves that it's okay to do. My message is to you. They're wrong. And anybody who tells you that you're concerned for your child and their education and their well-being and the fierceness that you display while fighting for those things and fighting to hold on to them for them, to be that memory bank as well as that defender, when they try to make you feel bad about that and act like being hands off in that way is some kind of, great gift to your child, that's where independence comes from, they're lying to you. They want, just like cult leaders, they want you to push your child away. They want you to create distance from your child. They want you to feel bad about any attachment that you have to your child, because they know that the surest way for you to get to your child is for your child to be insecure of that attachment. I'm not talking about being a hover parent. I'm saying don't go the opposite way. There's a big difference. There's a huge, huge gap between being a hover parent who infantilizes the child and lives vicariously through the child and parentifies the child, or like makes the child their emotional guardian. That's wrong. Most sane people know that, but they're disingenuous. They want you to picture that when they say it's not all about you, when all you're doing is being an attached parent. That's all you're doing. You're just being an attached parent, a caring parent, a properly bonded parent. They're lying. They're luring you into a trap. Don't fall for it. Defend that attachment. Cherish that attachment. Take note of it. You will be glad in the end, and be very suspicious of anybody who tries to get between you and your child in that way. They want to replace you. Don't let them. It's right up there with saying, you're a racist. You're a narcissist. No, you're not. You're a parent with healthy attachment to your child. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to take stock, and you're supposed to feel those feelings. Anyway, sorry about getting a little emotional. This is a topic very near and dear to me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.